For the Highline Voodoo 7, I decided to build this one out of black limba, which is also known as Carina. Black limba is very similar to mahogany, but it has a tone that's a little more balanced. For the neck, I chose a quarter sawn board so I could ensure strength and durability. Not only do I like the way this wood looks, it works great. It's easy to saw and sand. This neck is going to have an angled headstock, and that means a scarf joint. The joint has to be cut precisely and then planed smooth so that we can get a good glue joint. After the scarf joint dried, I took the blank to the bandsaw and cut out the rough shape. The tuner holes are marked very carefully to make sure that they align perfectly. And here I'm routing the truss rod slot. One of my favorite steps in the whole process of building guitars is carving the neck. I use Japanese Iwasaka files, which are a great tool for getting the shape just exactly the way I want it to be. And it doesn't take long to finish the process. Then all I have to do is sand everything smooth. With the neck shaft finished, it was onto the fretboard. I added a 12-inch radius to a slab of pau furrow. Then I used my bandsaw to cut the fret slots. Once the slots were done, I cut the taper, and then it was ready to be glued onto the shaft. I like to wrap the truss rods in Teflon plumber's tape. That helps keep it from rattling. Then I pressed it into the slot, and we were ready to glue on the fretboard. I always make sure that the gluing surfaces are planed very smoothly. That way it doesn't take a lot of clamping pressure. It takes a lot of tools to make a neck. With the neck mostly finished, it was time to move on to making the body. With the basic shape cut out of the blank, I went ahead and drum sanded the edges to get them nice and smooth. Then I routed the pocket for the neck. It's always a relief when the neck fits so tightly into the body. I always make my own templates for just about every guitar project I build. Ergonomics is very important, so I always pre-plan where all the controls will be positioned. And that includes the position of the jack. After routing the pickup pockets, I had to drill holes for the wiring. This hole will route all the pickup wires into the control cavity. I thought it would be nice to add a little bit of a comfort contour for this guitar. So I sketched it out and then carved it with my Japanese Iwasaka files. Then it was on to sanding. Sanding and sanding and sanding. Before I could finish shaping the neck, I had to glue it into place. Then I filed and sanded the heel so that I have a nice smooth transition. Check that fit. At this stage, it was starting to look like a guitar. Notice how there are no fret marker dots. I chose instead just to put some markers on the side of the fretboard to keep the fretboard clean. I carefully measured the thickness of the neck and decided to go back and carve it even thinner. And then it was time for some more sanding, and sanding and sanding and sanding. I took the body all the way down to about 600 grit before I was ready to apply the finish. The finish I applied is just Danish oil, which has been rubbed in using 800 grit sandpaper. The result is a very smooth satin sheen that I love. Then it was time to install the frets. And once that was done, they were leveled and dressed to perfection. I thought it would be a nice touch to make my own pickup trim rings. After all, they'd complement the custom hand-wound humbuckers I made for this guitar. All that was left to do was final assembly, string it up, and intonate.